Hello and welcome to episode 26 of the LiveFitNow Podcast. Thank you very much for joining me today. Once again, I am super excited for you to hear today's conversation. I had such fun and felt so inspired at the end of the conversation. I can't wait for you to hear it too. As always, I have shared the episode onto YouTube. Please don't forget to tell all your friends and family about your favourite episodes, because that really does help me spread the message and grow this podcast community. Today's conversation is covering such an important topic about how we age, not holding ourselves back by self-imposed limitations and not stopping doing things because we've hit an age. Focusing on women living well over 50. Without further ado, here's the conversation. My guest today is on a mission to build a community of women living well after 50 and making the most of life. Women 50 and older want to be happy, healthy, fit and fabulous, craving a sense of purpose in the last half of life and also plenty of relaxation and fun. She started a blog in her late 50s because she believes that age is just a number. She started running at age 50 and completed her first full marathon at the age of 55. Now in her 60s, she embraces an ageless attitude. Founder of Women Living Well Over 50, a health and wellness coach and podcaster. Welcome to the LiveFitNow Podcast, Sue Loncaric. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you, Victoria, and thanks so much for having me to join you today.
You're so welcome. I am genuinely so excited for this conversation. So I guess I'd love to start with you sharing your story. How have you reached this point? What's your background and experience, and what is it you do today?
Sure. I started off life as a ballet teacher, would you believe? And I had a ballet studio from the time I was 15. I didn't actually look like a ballerina, so I took up teaching, and that was something that I did for quite some time. I'd always done dancing in some form, and that kept me fit and active. Then I had children, and like many women, you know, there's really no time for you. You've got children. I was working, I changed careers, and I was working in administration and accounting, which is a far cry from ballet teaching. And I sort of let myself go a little bit. And then I was coming up to 50. And I wasn't concerned about turning 50. I was, looking forward to it, actually. And that's when I really started, though, to start my health and fitness journey. I was working with some girls in an office. There was only 5 of us, and I was probably old enough to be their mother, and they booked me into a boot camp. And they said, "Oh, we've booked you into a boot camp." And I said, "Well, you do realise that I'm almost old enough to be your mother, and I'm not as fit as what you are." And they said, "Oh, you'll be fine." So I went along and joined in with that, because that's the thing. I loved being surrounded by younger people because they keep you young. And so I didn't sort of think of myself as a 50-year-old. I just went along and did the boot camp. But they didn't stop there. Then they said, "Oh, well, we'll have to start running now." And I was never any good at sports at school or PE or anything like that. And the thought of running, I couldn't even run between 2 lampposts when I started. But I said, okay, I'll give it a go. And so we started training, and we started running a 10K. And then, of course, I got a bit carried away and said, "Oh, well, why don't we try a half marathon next?" So we started running for that. And I sort of got into the love of running then. And so when I turned 55, as you mentioned, I thought, I'm going to mark this occasion. And so I said, I'm going to run a marathon, and which I did. And it's just one of the highlights of my life, because I never really expected or even thought that I would do that. And so that was the start. I retired early then, around 57, and that transition was not very good for me. And I think a lot of my generation now, it was different in our parents' generation. They retired, and they were old when they retired because they hadn't lived like we do today. And but for women like myself, or women who are facing the empty nest or a career change, that transition can be very difficult. And I did not settle into transitioning into retirement. It just did not suit me. I felt lost. I felt I'd lost my identity, who I was, because I'd always been defined by my work or as a mother or a wife. And so it was new territory for me, and I really felt uncomfortable and didn't cope with that at all. And that's why I started my blog, because I wanted to share those experiences, but also encourage other women to make the most of their life, because it's a great time of life. We don't have responsibilities, our children are grown, and it's really the perfect time for us to follow our dreams that perhaps we haven't been able to explore because of responsibilities earlier in life. And now the world is really open to us, but it's just finding what you want to do. And for me, that meant that I really had to be healthy and fit and active, because to me that's the foundation to living well.
Fantastic, thank you. And where did the blog take you? Did you get immediate feedback? Was that what inspired you to grow that side of your life?
Well, I did. It actually had a different name then, which I'll tell you, but it was quite a fun name. It was called Sizzling Towards 60, because my philosophy then was, well, I'm 57, I'm heading towards 60, I'm not going to be fizzling out, I'm going to be sizzling. So I had that for quite some time, and then I changed the name to Women Living Well After 50, because and that was another transition. It was wonderful because it was another learning experience for me. And I built up and have a wonderful community of women in a Facebook group, and also that follow the blog and Instagram. And I work with women to help them feel that empowerment to do what they really want to do. And so it was another thing that I thought that I would never do, but I did it, and I never looked back. And just recently I started a podcast, which I never thought I would do either. So it sort of transitioned from the blog and website into a podcast as well. So, but the feedback that I get from women, what I love about it is that we really all are feeling the same way. And I was just helping them by expressing how I felt, and they could identify with that. And hopefully I could inspire them or motivate them to make the changes in their life that they needed to achieve the life that they wanted to live.
It just sounds great. And has helping others helped you help yourself even more? Has it inspired you to continue pushing yourself out of your comfort zone?
Oh, definitely. Well, yes. Yeah. And I actually think I was talking to a yogi a few weeks ago, and she used the term Dharma, and that's your purpose. And I think that my purpose in life is to help others, to encourage them, to teach them, to inspire and support them to achieve what they want to. And in turn, I learn so much from them that I grow as a person myself. So it's really a win-win situation. And just recently, I again stepped out of my comfort zone, and just going back to around after I'd retired, I thought I'd been doing personal training sessions and working out in the gym, and I thought I'd really like to do this. So I applied to get my certification. And when I did, they suggested, oh, yes, well, you can do it, but you're probably a little bit old. And I was actually gutted at that because I thought, I don't feel old and I can do, I am more active than a lot of people half my age. And I think that I could relate to people over 50 as a personal trainer or a group fitness instructor. So I actually let that go, which now I sort of think that was the wrong thing to do, but I just was so taken aback and it really knocked my self-esteem. But anyway, I turned 60, and then last year it was, I applied. And I thought, I'm not going to take no for an answer.
Good.
And so I actually did it, and I'm now a certified group fitness instructor. And I was fortunate enough to get a position in a virtual studio. So I take group fitness group fitness classes for over 50 women in the Strong Healthy Women virtual studio. So I just keep developing, and I'm not sure, I just hope I live for another 30 years or something because I've got so many more things that I want to do.
Yeah. Wow. I love the fact that you went back and did it, because that's so shocking to me. It feels like we're at a time when things like that you hear less and less of, but I guess there is still that element of ageism that we need to break through, because exactly that. And if you take the time to look after yourself, there's so many years ahead. To think that once you hit a threshold, whatever that might be in people's head, 50, 60, that then you shouldn't do this, that, and the other. That's just crazy, isn't it? Because you have so many years of life left.
Yes. Well, I am a little annoyed at myself that I sort of didn't proceed then when they told me that. I was shocked. I just didn't expect to have that reaction. But I didn't let it stop me in the end. I did try again. And that was, I've just turned 63 a couple of weeks ago. So I was 62 when I started it. So
Brilliant.
That was 5 years later than when they said I was too old. But and that's really great. And I think that's the other thing that we have to remember when we're aging, is that we do have a lot to offer. And we are capable, and we can do things if we really want them. If you really want something, you can go for it and you can achieve it. And we shouldn't be put off by a number. If you look at yourself as a number, you'll never really do anything. But if you can just get past that and just think, well, I'm healthy, I'm intelligent, and I can do this, there's no reason why you can't.
Exactly. We have to live life to the full for every single year of our life, not just up to a point. And I guess it's that whole principle of holding ourselves back by self-limiting beliefs. And we just got to break through them.
We do. And we all have them, don't we? And I think that we carry them for quite some time, and I suppose I'm talking generation here again. I think that perhaps people of your generation are learning from us as we learnt from our parents, each generation learns. So perhaps you can overcome your limiting beliefs a lot earlier than what perhaps someone of my generation can, because there's still women out there now in their 50s and 60s who don't have that self-belief, or they have that voice in their head that says, what do you think you're doing? You can't do this. Or what makes you think you can do it? They listen to that instead of believing in themselves and having that self-confidence. And it seems strange to think that, people do get to that age and they still lack confidence. But I think that's also because you really don't know about the future when you get older. How long do you have in the future? I know my mum passed away at 63, which is the age I am now. And that's another contributing factor to me and my health journey, because both my parents had different forms of cancer. Both died in their mid-60s, and I didn't want to be that way. So, I think that for me, that's another driving force to me living a healthy life, is making sure I get all my screenings done and medical checks and that sort of thing, so I can stay healthy and hopefully live a long and happy life.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, really. And I had a conversation with a couple of people recently, one being a menopause doctor. And I feel, I'm not sure if it's the same in Australia, but as women, we get a lot of knowledge and information about how we change and how our body changes until a point. And then there's kind of a drop off where we're not actually told how our bodies change. And I think perhaps it's getting better, but I think menopause is a big part of that. We're not necessarily explained what happens, what's happening, and that it's not like the end. It's actually just the next stage. How do you feel about that? Do you think there is a lack of knowledge in that whole change of area, and perhaps that's part of the lack of seizing life and living past that part of our lives?
Oh, definitely. I think that it seems strange to say in the world that we live in, but there's still some subjects that people, or women in particular, feel self-conscious about discussing, and there is more coming out about menopause but for me, it's the post-menopause they don't seem to concentrate on. And I think that, everybody goes through this, they experience menopause in different ways. For me, I was quite fortunate, and I think that was to do with the fact that I was active and kept my running up and my other forms of exercise, and I sort of ate well and tried to live a healthy lifestyle. I really do believe that helps. It didn't mean that I didn't get some of the symptoms like the hot flashes and that sort of thing, but for me that was milder. And I do acknowledge that some women do really suffer the symptoms during that period of time, and for a long time, and some even forever. But I do think that we need to put the spotlight more on talking about health for women over 50, over 60, over 70, and also the fact that they don't even talk about sexual relationships and things like that. I mean, it just seems once you hit, well, let's say 60 now, well, you don't do that sort of thing anymore. But that's not the case. And I mean, we've got to be more open about discussing these things so that women can be informed and they can think, oh, well, what I'm feeling at the moment is normal, or if it isn't, they might need to seek help. But if you don't get that information, you don't know. And that does, as you say, stop you from living the life that you really want to live.
Yeah. And what would you find, or have you found useful in that? Do you find, like within a community such as yours, where you can speak to other women experiencing or having already been through it or going through it or about to go through it, or from experts explaining things so that you've got somewhere to go to in that way, or perhaps a mixture of the two? What do you think is helpful?
Well, I think a mixture of the two, because, Dr. Google is there, but not always reliable. So I do think that you need to always consult a professional, whether it be a GP or a doctor who specialises in, say, women's health in particular, generally speaking, or someone who specialises in menopause and post-menopause, because there's so many things that you need to know about it, and it can affect your self-confidence because you might be feeling certain ways, and which, as I said before, was quite normal, but if you're not informed, it can affect you because you think, oh, I'm a bit weird or whatever. But I found for me, I was mainly talking with friends, discussing how we were feeling, and just finding that professional help and reading things. But there is starting to be a lot more information out there as well, which is helpful.
Yeah, it's really about empowering us all with the knowledge, not only for those that are going to go through it or have been through it, but also those around us as well. It's important that everyone understands what's going on, because it's perfectly normal and everyone's going to experience it differently, but we need to have kindness and understanding with each other as well, I think.
Oh, that's an excellent point, because the number of times, women might be having a hot flash or something like that, and it's not pleasant, and you'll get people making a comment that, it's nothing, or you're just being a bit of a princess or whatever. They have no understanding of what it feels like. And I think you're right. I think, there's mood swings, there's the fatigue, there's so many symptoms that go with menopause that I think you're right. Everybody should be aware, because then they can be supportive. They can understand, as you say, be kind, instead of saying, oh, she's just go and, have a lay down or something like that. They, I think they think you're less of a person as well, because they don't understand what you're going through. So I think that's an excellent point that you've raised there, Vicki.
Yeah, I think it's really difficult, because we're going obviously through the phase of equality as well, and you don't want to put your hand up and sort of say, oh, I'm struggling, or I'm not feeling myself, and you're going through this whole journey, and it's so normal, but yet everyone doesn't know it's normal. We don't understand it, do we?
No, and I think you hit it on the head when you said, you don't put your hand up. And I think that some women are guilty of that as well. How can we expect others to understand what we're going through if we're not prepared to talk to them about it, and to open up about it, and to realise that it is a natural part of life? And you have to, I think you've just got to be a bit vulnerable. And vulnerability can be a strength, because it takes a lot to be your soul. But I think that if you do share and ask for support, then you will receive that.
Yeah, that's a really powerful thing to think about, I think. And I would like to head over to talking about training now. So as someone that is in her 60s training, have you had to make any adjustments as to how you train? Is every year slightly different, or have you found that actually, because you've kept it up consistently, you can just train in the same ways? Are there any differences?
Well, I think for me, there isn't that much difference, because I've been consistently training, well, at least for the last 15 years. And so I think my body gets the usual wear and tear, but I do feel strong. I feel healthy. So for me, the training is, it doesn't really change too much. However, I did make a concerted effort to, I was just running for a while. I wasn't doing much cross training. And I think that really from 50 in particular, 50 plus, you do need that strength training. You need flexibility and you need balance, because the strength training is good for our bones. It keeps us strong. It's going to help us as we get older with osteoporosis and things like that. The balance, as we get older, we can lose our balance. And so if we do some balance form of exercise, it's going to help us be strong and perhaps avoid falls in the future. And the flexibility side, but for me, I do yoga. I just absolutely love yoga. And I think that for anyone who hasn't been training consistently for a while, or they're just starting out, it's not too late. But I think if it's the functional fitness that you want, being able to bend over, reach up, carry the groceries, walk upstairs, downstairs, all those things that you do for your daily routine, your daily tasks. You need to be able to be strong enough to do those. So that's why you do need that strength training and the flexibility that I was talking about.
I agree with you 100%. It's so important. And I actually find a lot of the people I work with, the trigger for them to start is one of those things that you just mentioned, suddenly becoming difficult. And that awareness arises and you think, well, this used to be easy. I didn't even used to think about this as a thing. And suddenly I either can't do something or I find something really hard. And that can be that pivotal moment of, okay, I need to do something now. And often a great place to start is through strength training and making your body a little bit stronger. And then you can build on it from there. But it really is so often the functional things that make people want to start training at that age. I think you start to realize you want to be able to continue doing those things. Whereas often I think when a younger person starts training, it's often for aesthetic reasons rather than health reasons. Whereas health really starts to kick in sort of 40 plus. But hopefully we can get in there and convince people, build the foundations early,
That's right.
Get ready,
Exactly.
coming up.
Yeah, it's never too late to start, but the earlier the better. But the other thing is, for me and a lot of people, we want to be able to keep up with our grandchildren. I want to be the grandmother, and I am, fortunately, that can still pick up the kids, go to the park, play on the trampoline, play with them instead of just having to sit there and watch them, because you just can't do those sort of things. So if you've got grandchildren, that's a great reason to want to keep healthy and active. And I think the other thing is, though, that people find it difficult because they think strength training, I need to, use those heavy weights and do this and that. They don't quite understand what it is, that you can even use body weight to strengthen yourself. And that's why I always think it's good to have an initial training session with a personal trainer, because they will be able to develop a program that's going to work for you. Now, my husband is in his 70s, and he and I were working out with a personal trainer for about 5 years, and that was probably when he was in his mid-60s, I suppose. And she, he wasn't a gym person, he wasn't into fitness or anything like that, but she really was able to write a program that was appropriate for him, where he could get the benefits out of it. And of course, being a bit older, he was getting the aches and pains, and he had a few injuries and that sort of thing. So my advice is always to get that professional help, to get a program written for you.
I think what it gives you is confidence, because you can there's a lot of stuff now around encouraging strength training, so people kind of are aware that that's probably what they should be doing, but they have no idea where to start, which is completely understandable. I mean, some people come expecting, I know I should know this, but none of us are born knowing it. We all have to learn. And I think once you're shown and taught and understand and connect with our bodies, we can then have the confidence to use it going forward forever, because there's always something we can do. And it not only makes us physically stronger, I think it makes us emotionally and our brain stronger as well, because our minds build resilience and strength, and we know that we can do something, and that confidence is so powerful in allowing us to do more as we age as well.
Yes, that's a great point, because you do prove to yourself that you can do things, and you try and do something a little bit more, and I think that that's a wonderful thing, because you don't want to just stay where you are. You want to be continually growing in all areas of your life, and I agree that the mental side, with exercise, to me, it's the mental and physical side are both important, because mentally you just feel so great after you've done an exercise workout, or if I'm feeling stressed, I'll go for a run, and then I just feel fabulous after that. Tired, but fabulous. But you know, I think we have to look at exercise as that combination of the mental, physical, and even spiritual experience, and I think you get so much out of that. And the other thing, I think, if someone was starting out, is to try and keep variety and to find something that you really enjoy doing, because then you're more likely to stay on track with it.
I think it's so easy to fall in the trap of thinking it always has to be a chore, or actually it can be a great joy.
Yeah.
I mean, I train an older couple, and they have taken up dancing, and they just love it. So they're doing more exercise during the week, and they're doing their resistance training, but not only is it bringing them together, they enjoy it. So they're exercising, but barely know they are. And I think that's so wonderful if you can find something that just makes you happy.
That's right, and that's the key. And there's so many things you can do. I mean, people say to me, "Oh, I can't run," or "I don't like running," and I say, "Well, you don't have to do that." I'm fortunate that I run with a couple of other ladies, and we've been running together for about 10 years, and we run every Saturday. And so we call ourselves the Saturday Sisters, and we support each other along the way. We're running and talking, and it's a social thing as well as training for different events that are coming up. And so to me, that's a very happy way for me to exercise, because I'm getting to see my friends, we're supporting each other, and we're doing that. But dancing, or even hula hooping, if you can remember back, you're not old enough to know what a hula hoop was, but something or that you can do that will bring you joy as long as you're moving, I think is the key.
Yeah, it's the key to sustainability and consistency. So do you have any challenges on the horizon?
Well, I am training for another marathon, would you believe? I don't know why. Well, I do. My friend, I've been training with her because she wanted to do one. She's about 10 years younger than I am. And so I said, okay, I'll train with you. And as we're getting closer to the date, that's if it's held because of COVID-19, but we've kept our training up just in case. I said to my husband the other day, I've been training. I just did 31 kilometres the other day. It's not that far to 42. I think I might give it a go, but I haven't actually made that public, so you're the first to know.
Oh, thank you.
But yes, that's the goal I'm going for at the moment, to try and run one more marathon if I can.
Fantastic. And do you think that helps? Do you find perhaps as we age, we will often set ourselves less goals, whereas actually we should keep trying and pushing our boundaries and testing ourselves?
Well, it's the limiting beliefs again. And also for some people, I'm too old to do that. Well, you're not too old. If you look, I have to preface that by saying you've got to be in good health. And if you're in good health, you can do anything if you really want to. Like, another challenge I have is I want to try stand-up paddle boarding this coming summer, which we're in spring here in Australia at the moment, so it's not that far away. And I've never done anything like that. But for me, I think because I started running because the girls encouraged me and they didn't see me as an older person or what age, they just said, come on, you can do it with us. Each time I've done something, that's really increased my confidence to try new things, to go to boot camp, to, try running longer, to do a group fitness instructor course, to try yoga, to try everything that comes along. It just, with each time you achieve something, it just builds on that self-confidence. And you just have to believe in yourself that you can do it. And as I said earlier in the conversation, forget about the age, forget about the number. If you want to do something, like I've got a friend who lives on Vancouver Island, and her husband just did 52 hikes in 52 days around Vancouver Island, which is a great challenge. They started off, they were going to do 30 in 30 days. And then when they got to the 30, she said, oh, let's keep going. But they usually do the Camino walk over in Spain. I don't know if you know of that, but so they couldn't travel there this year because of COVID. So they decided to do their own walk, and that was wonderful because he's in his early 70s and she's in her 60s, and there you go. They've just done 52 days of hiking, and it was wonderful. So you just set yourself a challenge and just believe in yourself. And I think the other thing is, if you do set a goal, that you just break it down into bite-sized pieces, so little micro steps, and each time you achieve something, you build on that confidence and you get closer to it.
Do you recommend finding a community or a buddy, someone that can support you in your journey, that perhaps wants to work towards the same or a similar goal?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I certainly do. And that's why we've got, the Saturday Sisters I mentioned, because there'll be times that I might wake up and go, for me, I have to get up at 4 o'clock on a Saturday to drive an hour to meet them because we've moved down the coast now. And there'd be many mornings that I could say on a Saturday, I don't feel like going. But because I've made that commitment to meet them, and we're doing it together, we've got a common goal. We set out what we're going to run for the year. We select different events, and I do believe that support is vital, as is support from a partner or your family, because they might not want to do the same things as you, but if you say to them that it's important to you and it's what you want to achieve, and ask them for their support, I'm sure they're more than willing to give it. And you do need that, because there's going to be times with any goal that you're working towards where you go, oh, I just don't know why I'm doing this, or I'm ready to give up. And that's when your support group comes in, or your cheerleaders, as I like to call them, to be there to help you stay on track and help you when you're just feeling that lack of self-confidence or lack of motivation or whatever. So I do think a buddy is and support is vital if you want to achieve a big goal.
I'd love to go into a little bit more detail about what it is you do to help people. So you do the coaching, is that online, in person? Has it changed during COVID?
Well, it has changed a bit in COVID. I have been doing one-on-one sessions, usually in person, but of course that's all changed now. So we're trying to move it to virtual, but I'm also moving to organising virtual retreats as well as physical retreats. I've got some other professionals. I've got a yoga instructor and a health coach as well, and we're combining to develop a program that we can bring virtually or do in person, and just to base it around a bit of self-care. I know that really is a bit of a buzzword now, and it's lost its perhaps impact like everything does, but I do think that people need to carve out that time for themselves and to be kind to themselves. And so we have retreats for people where they just come for a few hours. We do some yoga, we do some I do some life coaching and some exercises around self-awareness and self-care. We have some a cooking demonstration on healthy eating, that sort of thing, and just have a lovely few hours where people can go and just walk away and think, well, that was just a lovely morning, away from the world, away from my problems, and so that's basically how I do what I do at the moment. Yes. So, and then I just have clients that I work with one-on-one to help them achieve their goal, whether it be health and fitness or any goal that they're working towards in life.
Helping, empowering people for their lives.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Sounds wonderful. And have you got any general tips that you would give to people to start looking after their own well-being and feeling better?
Well, I think that, yes, I do. I think you have to sit down and just think about why. Why do I want my health and well-being? And write that down, because I think you have to be honest with yourself, and most of us want to live a long life, and you can't do it unless you're healthy. So I think that you have to think about what you want in life, and probably do an audit on your life at the moment, and sort of say, well, how is my health and what am I doing to help it? And what do I, what's my diet? I don't like using the word diet because everybody thinks it's about losing weight, but what's my eating lifestyle like? What's my exercise? What do I do for my mental health? And just break all your life down and have a look and rate them all. Rate them from, say, 0 to 10, with 10 being, well, that's really going well, but 0 is, boy, I need help. So I would start with just having a look at your life, and then why you want to make those changes, and then putting in place a plan and thinking about what you do, and not get caught up in, oh, I should be doing this or I should be doing that. I think that you need to just think about, as we said with the exercise, we know we've got to move. So I think just starting by even going for a walk every day, just starting with little habits and building on them, because you're not going to go from 0 to where you want to be overnight. So I think having that end goal in place, but working towards it with small steps and doing something that you enjoy, and I think, and also accepting and just saying health and well-being is my lifestyle, the same as it would be like brushing your teeth or whatever else you do that's a daily habit. It's part of your lifestyle. Don't look at it as a chore. And I think you mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. It's shifting that perspective and not thinking about anything as short term, but a constantly evolving thing to create the life that you want to have.
And you might want to try different things till you find that little sweet spot that's just right for you. And there's so many things you can do. Tai Chi, you can do yoga, you can get a PT, as we talked about before. There's so many group fitness classes around, community classes that are out there. That's probably where I'd start. Go and try it, because they're not very expensive. Yeah. And, you could just try a few things that you think you might like, and then progress from there.
Yeah, there are no rules. I think there is no one way. We're all different, we're all unique, and actually it's about being empowered to explore for our own journey, because everyone needs different things at different times, and that's fine. There is no set pathway that you've got to follow. It's a meandering river, really.
That's right. And not being afraid to put your hand up for help and say, look, I'm at a point where I really need to do something, but I'm not sure how to do it. No one's going to think badly of you. They'll rejoice. They'll say, great, let's get together and do something to help you, because, but I think that's the thing. People don't want to open up and admit to other people that they might need a little bit of help starting.
Yeah, we don't want to admit to weakness, but yet
No.
we all have our weaknesses, and that's what makes us human.
Exactly. And we're all unique. And that's why one size doesn't fit all in anything in life, really. And I think that it's what makes you, I think what you have to find, even in health and wellness, is what makes you sing inside, what brings the joy out inside. Because then you will want to do it all the time.
Yeah, I agree. And it's embracing things that are exciting you and also allowing yourself to let go of the things that you don't need anymore. You haven't got to stay in the mold of something you used to do. You might completely change, and that's absolutely fine.
Exactly.
Are there any common myths linked to your field that you would like to debunk?
The coaching or the...
Anything you'd like to address, really? Are there any sort of myths that might...
any myths? Well, what bugs me most is the ageism, because we can do anything. Age is no barrier. But also I think the attitude of some older people who just have a closed mind. I think that we need to be open to all opportunities and experiences, and I think that bugs me a little bit when someone says, oh, I can't do that, because really you can if you want to. It's your choice. You make your choices in life, and you either choose to do something or you don't. And that doesn't mean that we're all good at things. I mean, you do have limit. We all have limits. I don't really see myself bungee jumping or maybe jumping out of an aeroplane, but I think that, you've got to grab life and just, that's, I think, what I think that people feel is that once they get to a certain age, life's over. Well, it's not. You just keep going. And I think you mentioned to me, you've got a client who's in her 80s or something, and, wonderful. It's just wonderful. There's people that are starting careers in their 70s and 80s and going to university in their 80s and 90s. I mean, it can be anything in life. We only put the limits on ourselves. The only limits we have are what we put on ourselves, really.
Yeah. We just got to go for it if we want to, and it doesn't matter what age we are at.
Yeah.
So I have a big question that I like to ask everyone, and you can ask it on a professional or a personal level, or perhaps it's the same for both, but what inspires you?
Oh, I wasn't expecting that. Well, I think people inspire me. My family, my grandsons inspire me every day for different reasons, because they make me want to be a better person. They make me want to be a role model to them and show them what a healthy lifestyle is. But they teach me so much as well. They teach me to be in the moment. We might be just sitting there watching ants crawling along, or the next minute we'll be playing a game where we're, different characters or whatever, and using our imagination. And that's something that people lose as they get older, that enjoying that inner child that we have that's still there. So they inspire me. And I think just people who... the women that I talk to on the podcast and people that I learn from, who are just living their life, and I just feel blown away sometimes by what people can really achieve, and that inspires me to be better. I want to help people, and when I see them going for gold and achieving what they want, that inspires me to be better as well, and to keep going to help other people. So I think people in general inspire me in their own ways. And I think that one thing I do believe is that we inspire people when we don't even know we're doing that. Everyone inspires people in different ways, and people might say to me, oh, you really inspired me, and I wouldn't have even thought about that. So just living our lives can be an inspiration to other people, and we don't even realise it.
That is a wonderful sentiment. I really, really like that. And I would like to start drawing to a close by finishing off to give you the floor to share one thing you think everyone would benefit from knowing.
I just think that people would benefit from just believing in themselves, just believing and letting go of those things that are holding you back, because it's not easy to do that. But once you do, that freedom that you feel can just open up life to you.
Yeah, thank you. And if my audience would like to find you, I will pop it all in the show notes, but where are you on the internet?
Well, I've got the website womenlivingwellafter50.com.au. I'm also on the usual social media, so there's the Facebook page, and I also have a special Facebook group, Women Living Well After 50 Facebook group, that we do challenges. We do, at the moment, it's Women's Health Week here in Australia this week. So I took it a step further, and we're doing 30 days of health and wellness in September. But we're always doing things on a monthly theme. It's not necessarily to do with health. It's to do with living a life well lived, and that's going through all different experiences. So I'd love people to come and join us there. It's free, and it's a very supportive community. And I'm also on Instagram and LinkedIn as well. So, and the podcast, Women Living Well After 50. So like you, I have guests on, professionals and other women, to share their stories and just to help women, support them, educate us all, and to just enrich our lives so that we can embrace life and enjoy it every day.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I have absolutely loved this conversation. It has been wonderful. And I have no doubt that you're going to inspire some people to take action after this conversation. So thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and if I can inspire one person to maybe go for a walk tomorrow, that will be my job done. So thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to episode 26 of the Live Fit Now podcast. I really enjoyed that conversation with Sue, and I hope you have finished it feeling as inspired as I do for aging and still living well. We would love to hear from you, so don't forget you can click through on the show notes and get in touch with either myself or Sue. You can email me directly, hello@livefitnow.co.uk, or contact us through our social medias. It would be great if you could share this episode with family and friends. You can find it on YouTube, share through your social media, through word of mouth, and please do subscribe and rate the podcast. It really does help spread these episodes to more and more people. Thank you so much for listening. Until next Thursday.